I mean, that went from 95 to 35.
Yeah.
What's interesting is Bitcoin dominance over time is falling.
Yeah.
So the peaks are always less.
Low,
The
yeah, lower
lows seem to,
highs.
yeah, the lows seem to be roughly equal, but it suggests to us that we should come somewhere back down here. And it happens fast. It happens in 2, 3, 4 months.
Bitcoin has struggled to sustain momentum after briefly surpassing the approximately $100,000 milestone. Although it is still above six figures, it is trading with a noticeable lack of enthusiasm. Increased selling pressure in derivatives markets, which has slowed short-term price action, is the reason given by analysts for the recent stagnation. The rally may not be far from over, though, as underlying on-chain indicators suggest ongoing bullish potential. Raoul Pal, the CEO of Real Vision, expressed optimism in a recent interview, claiming that the cryptocurrency market is approaching a pivotal moment. A move past its all-time high, or Bitcoin's next big breakout, Pal says, could cause a psychological shift among investors, resulting in massive capital inflows and the start of what he refers to as the banana zone, a euphoric period of rapid price acceleration and risk-on behavior. According to Pal, money will start shifting into significant altcoins like Solana after Bitcoin decisively breaks through its previous highs. Eventually, this will spread into larger areas of the digital asset ecosystem. According to his cycle-based analysis, the current consolidation of Bitcoin may be the quiet before a massive surge in cryptocurrency markets.
The actual peak of Bitcoin dominance and said, I think dominance has peaked. I think it has. It's the right
Yeah.
point in the cycle. It's this part in the banana zone when it happens. It usually happens after this first correction. So if that's right, and let's say Bitcoin goes from 100K to 150K for easy maths,
Yeah.
then if you look at the performance of the other tokens, you can kind of impute what happens is that Sui probably does 3x that. That's
But we
right.
haven't.
It'll be when
Yeah.
Bitcoin breaks its new highs, which I
All-time
think
high.
it's probably next week, because we get to the top, we consolidate a bit, and
Yeah.
then it goes, and then everything goes. And the banana zone really won't kick in the terms of the way that people think, where everybody's getting hilariously rich and all sorts of stuff, probably until Solana breaks all-time highs. Because that's
Yeah.
people's biggest bag, really, is Solana.
Yeah.
And that needs to happen. Then risk gets recycled out the curve, because people do simple maths, and everybody's going to do it. Oh, they start saying, okay, maybe Bitcoin goes to 300,000 this cycle, let's say. So therefore, it's got a 3x from here. And then they're like, oh, but Solana could do a 5x from here, and Sui could do a 10x from here. And before you know it, everybody rushes up the risk curve because it's
Yeah.
later in the cycle and they want to capture as much gains as possible. Yeah, exactly. So Bitcoin
Same.
dominance, generally when it falls, it is the start of the silly season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, obviously, I mean, by definition, it means that other tokens are outperforming Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin's going up, which we're still going up, then what we should see is that. So I think, we've had a little correction in Bitcoin dominance, went from 62 back to 63. It'll top out again and then move lower. And that next move, people will really start to see it. And I think that's the move when Bitcoin goes through all-time highs and everything else goes completely bananas. So here's the same kind of period in 2021. So it happened in Jan that time around.
Yeah.
That drop went from 70 something percent down to 38% in a few months.
That's crazy.
Right, that's alt season. We saw it here back in 2017, which I think is a very similar one. It started like in Feb 17. I mean, that went from 95 to 35.
Yeah.
What's interesting is Bitcoin dominance over time is falling. So the peaks are always less.
Low,
The
yeah, lower
lows
highs.
the lows seem to be roughly equal, but it suggests to us that we should come somewhere back down here, and it happens fast. It happens in 2, 3, 4 months. I mean, my bet has been, as you know, has been Sui, because it's outperformed everything.
Yeah.
It just keeps going up, correcting, going up, correcting, going up, correcting. So it does all the right things. It outperforms all of the time. And I don't see any reason why that's going to stop. I mean, people argue a lot about, well, low free float VC tokens. People don't understand a simple fact is that a low free float in a bull market goes up more.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever traded emerging markets knows this. And that's what happens. And in a bear market, they get killed more. It's as simple as that, because you've got less available supply and a lot of demand because there's a lot of attention on SUI and other things like this. And so it tends to work really, really well. It's also one of the factors why NFTs do well in bull markets, because there's a limited supply and a lot of attention drives to it. And so prices go stratospheric. It's a very similar construct. So that's my main bet now. It's pretty simple to me. So it broke out of this basing pattern. It flagged, consolidated. My guess is the next move breaks through all of this. And so that tells us that SUI is still the fastest horse in the race.
Yeah.
ETH, different question, because I think it can play catch up. But if we look at this, it just looks like it's flagging here again. And the next move is, again, the move where we should see a dramatic outperformance of SUI versus SOL. And that's how I really simplify everything, because if we've got one dominant factor, and the dominant factor being liquidity, therefore everything is correlated. So therefore, just do one chart against the other and choose the strongest asset without going too far out the risk curve. Because sure, we can go to memes and stuff, but it becomes a harder game to play.
Over the past week, Bitcoin has been trading below the $14,000 to $15,000 mark, which many market observers consider to be a crucial resistance zone. However, this seeming stagnation could be deceptive. Bitcoin's current sideways movement may indicate consolidation within a bullish flag pattern rather than weakness, which could pave the way for a big breakout, according to Real Vision's CEO Raoul Pal. According to Pal, this period of price hesitancy is being misinterpreted by many. Instead of indicating a lack of conviction, it might indicate that the market is ready to re-enter and is just waiting for a distinct breakout trigger. A solid structural foundation for this pause has been created by the recent spike from about 74,400 to about 105,900, which was caused by significant liquidations and record inflows into spot Bitcoin ETFs. It is both normal and required to cool off after such a steep 40% climb. Some analysts think a pullback toward $100,000 or even $90,000 could shake out weak hands and restore upside momentum, even though buy volume is still low. Now that the majority of sell-side liquidity has been absorbed, Bitcoin might be preparing for its next big move after it breaks through important resistance levels.
You guys mentioned it last week, is that XRP chart is something to behold.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, none of us have really been involved in XRP, but that chart is something to behold. It's like, that's going to another big leg higher at some point. And that obviously helps the Bitcoin dominance chart. The other one, which I think is the best chart in the world, is, I don't know if I've got it on this one, is Doge Bitcoin. I've got the Doge chart, but Doge Bitcoin looks like it's going to continue. And Doge Bitcoin would suggest that it's going to outperform Bitcoin again, in which case it'll have been the hardest asset in the world.
Yeah.
Which is the funniest outcome. But Doge itself, like, put this.
That looks like a full sort of breakout mode, doesn't it? This chart here.
Yeah, if I go to the monthly chart, I mean, it kind of can't be better than this chart.
Yeah.
It just does the same thing every time. Consolidate, nothing, does nothing, alt season. Every time.
Yeah.
And so this looks like a rocket. And before you know it, Doge is somewhere up here.
I mean, that's a very interesting chart, I think.
It really is. And it's the same as XRP, essentially. So it's telling you that's the retail participation. They come on, look down the top 10, 15 tokens, what looks cheap in price.
Yeah, what's not Bitcoin, exactly.
What's not Bitcoin, what's cheap in price, have I heard about it? Go for it.
Play.
I mean, I have all of my ETH exposure via NFTs. So I've got the beta on top. But if I Let me see if I can find the chart I'm looking for. 1 second, I'll share it. The long-term chart of ETH is a thing of beauty. I've never kind of lost the faith in ETH. I just haven't invested in it much, except by the longer term thing. I mean, I think the entire financial system builds on ETH. I think there's no other chain that they will build on top of to the depth that they will here. But this chart, I'll get rid of all this DMARC indicator stuff that nobody understands except me. No, I can't.
I definitely do not understand.
For some reason, I can't get rid of it. But basically, this is a flag pattern. When this goes, ETH has its next move up, wherever it goes to. That's a shocking chart if this plays out, because it will change everybody's narrative again about ETH. I still think ETH from here, could it outperform Solana? It's possible. It's possible. Just because what I think is coming is, as the financial system comes, you don't get fired for building on ETH. My idea is ETH is Microsoft. I've never been to a bank, an insurance company, a large corporate that has Apple Macs. It's all on Microsoft. Why? Because it's an operating system that everybody can use, and you can hire people, fire people, bring in new people, and they don't have to learn something new. But if you were to build the entire financial system on SUI, everyone has to learn a move language. There's less number of developers. It's not had the Lindy effects that ETH has. Now, also the banks love a layer 2 because they feel like they've got control over certain things, but it still has the finality of settlement to the layer 1. So I think ETH is probably going to shock people going forwards. But, you know, XRP looks like it will too, and so does Doge. So it's kind of like everything's correlated.
Yeah.
But if we can break that high, if we can break that, let's say 4,300 high, it's going to really explode. But maybe there's two different users, right? Maybe this is driven by activity. Because I went and asked Grok and ChatGPT about the usage of blockchains, and ETH is so dominant by almost every metric.
Yeah.
And people forget that. On-chain activity has been less in terms of number of transactions because of the throughput, etc., even if you include all the layer 2s. But by every other metric, it just dwarfs everything else. In fact, it's larger than all the others put together for most things. So people forget this because we're a very fickle bunch in this space. But the reality is don't fade it. I think we do have an NFT season.
Yeah.
Somewhat different than the last. I think what we're seeing is a current bifurcation. One is Web3 consumer-based brands being built, and you know we'll talk about what you guys are doing.
Yep.
But you know that's Doodles, Pudgy Penguins, all of that, right? And that still seems to be capturing mind share. Then we've got the art side, which seems to be doing well. Then we've got the PFP side, which, you know, there are a few projects that will survive. And Punks, you know, going to the hands of Mickey Malko, who's a good friend of mine, is amazing news. I managed to get the head of the SUI Foundation over drinks one night in Dubai at 11 o'clock at night to get a punk. I said, the reality is you cannot be in the space and having been reasonably successful without owning a punk, right? It's like it's a rite of passage. Yeah. And so, you know, I think punks probably get to a floor price of $500,000 this cycle, just because there's a lot of OGs who haven't yet bought them.
Yeah.
You know, I was speaking to a bunch in Dubai, you know, really well-known people. They don't have them yet. I'm like, how can you? I mean, I've been speaking to Vlad Tenev from Robinhood. In fact, the last question of my interview with Vlad, because I've been talking to him privately, is like, when are you buying this fucking punk? You can't be in the space and pretend you're in crypto without a punk. And then, you know, what is the spillover effect from that? I know we've talked about this in the past. I think crypto dick butts is another one. You're either an OG and understand it or you don't. And there's only 5,600 of them there. They're 1 ETH, 1 ETH 25. I just do not see a world that these are not 10 ETH because they're so important to the space. Because you kind of know, right? Everybody's got a dick butt. You're like, yeah, you get this space. It's like a mini punk.
Yeah.
So I do think we'll see PFP projects, maintaining value certain ones that have Lindy effects. And I think that's good too. I think what Xcopy has done is so amazing because he's got such a broad spread of assets that people can buy, from Max Payne and Friends as a PFP, which is cheap, through to the one of ones, and people can participate throughout his ecosystem. So I do think the art stuff continues as well. So, and then we're going to see somebody do something breakout, which is somewhere between I still think a hybrid idea behind memes and what NFTs actually use as technology. People aren't using NFT technology much yet. They're just using it still for pictures, but there's a lot I think will happen. So I think the NFT space is going to get interesting. And I think some of it will be on Solana. We've seen a bunch of stuff migrate across to Sui as well, because they're faster throughput, so they're more like memes in that way. But we'll also see stuff accrue on ETH. So I think it's a broad mix.
On the surface, Bitcoin's recent tight consolidation below the $15,000 mark might seem like indecision. But analysts contend that it's actually a period of strategic calm, a traditional bull flag formation that suggests the possibility of a strong breakout. Such consolidation phases frequently precede explosive moves, particularly during favorable liquidity cycles, according to Real Vision's CEO Raoul Pal. Institutional accumulation reveals a different picture than retail sentiment, which seems cautious. Strong flows into corporate treasury holdings and spot Bitcoin ETFs indicate that bigger players are preparing for the next move. The bullish outlook is supported by on-chain data, which indicates that profit-taking activity is still well below levels usually linked to market tops, and instead indicates a period of healthy consolidation. The overall environment is shifting in favor of digital assets as macro conditions improve and risk appetite returns. A key downside level, according to analysts, is around $90,000. At this level, sophisticated investors are likely to make aggressive purchases, but weak hands may give up. On the upside, a clear break above the resistance level of about $15,000. This would confirm the bull flag and probably start a quick, momentum-driven rally. When Bitcoin breaks higher, altcoins, which have mostly lain dormant during its dominance, are anticipated to follow, igniting a wider market upswing. Disciplined investors perceive opportunity in this pause as the market hovers on the brink of this technical breakout. The setup is ready, the circumstances are favorable, and the smart money is already in motion. The question at hand is who will be prepared when Bitcoin reaches new heights, not if it will,